Good. Mike's to my right. He's also looking at comments too. So we've got
Okay, perfect.
set eyes.
That will be easy. So I'll let you know as soon as it kicks off here.
Does say live on
live. So we're live. We are live. And,
I always love that.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if you want to give a moment or two for anybody else that wants to do so that
absolutely
that can be the case. And then once it kicks off, I'll switch it off to just where it's your view.
Sure.
Yeah. So for anybody just watching on Facebook now, we're going to give just a moment or two for anybody that wants to pop on. I will have to mute myself though, Mel, so that we don't get that double sound on. So
I will just kill time, which I'm very good at. A couple of just church things. This upcoming week we have church on Sunday at 10 a.m. We'll still be coming to you live from the Facebook. And we will be have that ready for you. We also have the option, if you want to come and sit on the church grounds, we'll have service outside. And you can come that way if you'd like. And then we also have college and career class is going to be at 2:00 in the afternoon on Sunday via Zoom. You can contact the office email if you want to do that. And we like to have people involved. I think more things are going to be going on outside soon. I keep hearing from people, little things going on. So I think some things will still resume and, have some type of, if people want real meetings, they'll be there. But I think that the Zoom meetings are still working and still doing a lot too. So that's something there. I full disclosure right on Facebook Live, Hector, I didn't read your message, so I don't know what the youth are doing yet. So
yeah. Well, we are doing a movie night. I'm not going to reveal what the movie is because everybody always asks me and stuff, and it's just like, just show up. Come on.
Yes, exactly. Very good. Okay, that's good. Well, it is midweek worship, so I have my coffee all made and readily available. So no good desserts though. That is one thing I've missed in person. I don't buy desserts really. I don't eat the things I buy for my grandmother. I buy her desserts. I don't eat them. A little bit of ice cream here and there, but
we had our fair share of desserts up at our cabin. So Costco has those giant bags of Hershey's miniatures, and they didn't last a week. On top of a couple other snacks. So we're trying to be a little wiser now that vacation's over and not to snack all day.
Vacation's the time to do that. Exactly. We go on vacation, we eat wonderful things that are bad for you. So that's what vacation's all about.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, as Mel mentioned, Mike is going to be kind of interacting on the comments. I will also be doing that throughout. So, whenever you want to kick things off, Mel, you can. I'm going to mute myself now. So.
Okay. I'm going to kick it off with a word of prayer, real quick word of prayer, and then we'll get started. Dear Lord, thank you for being with us. Lord, thank you for giving us all the opportunities presented that we can come together, that we can gather. Right now we're on 2 mediums and we're going to load to another medium. We have to acknowledge that comes from you. The wonder of what people have come up with all comes from you inspiring and getting and people investing the time and making things possible so we can all come together and we can be together even when we're not physically together. I just want to thank you, Lord, for what you provide. Lord, guide my words, guide my thoughts as we speak, and guide this discussion as we go, and we can have a healthy discussion. And I just want to lift all of our prayer concerns in your precious name. Amen. Okay, so I used a word during the prayer, and that was part of my lesson. I had this idea, of interest or investment, and it's really interest and or investment, because one does have to come first. You do have to be interested in something before you can be invested. That's a truth. And what we're talking about here is we're going to talk about faith and a couple different aspects of faith. First, we're going to talk about faith itself, and then we're going to talk about the works of faith. So I had this idea, and it's kind of a philosophizing thing, and I'm gonna also leave time for questions and for people to talk. If anybody has any comments during, go ahead and type them out on the Facebook, and we will get to those. So definitely put those up there. When we come to accept this faith, when we come to accept Christ into our hearts, which that gift is paid for, that's there, that's given to us freely. Jesus paid the price for that. We have it. We are interested. We find it exciting. We find different elements of faith exciting. All of a sudden, there's something in our lives, and it changes us, and it moves us. And everyone has their own personal story how that happens. But after a while, it does become part of, as a Christian, your routine is your faith. Whether that's the way you pray, the way you do devotions, how you worship, they can all become routine. And routine over time may start to feel kind of droll, so to speak. It can happen. It happens to all of us. We all feel this way at different times. But the thing is after we're interested and we have something, where is the investment? Investment in faith is a lot harder than just the interest in faith. Investment is, and just like we talk about with financial investments aren't big right away. So it's just a little, example description. If you invest in something, invest in a savings account, and let's say you put whatever, let's just say $100 in there. The next day, you're not going to have $1,000 unless you've got some interest rate you've got to share with all of us. So, that's not going to happen. That account grows over time. Time and time, it can accrue and grow. Well, with your faith, same thing. You need to invest in your faith so it can grow, but it won't happen overnight. It's not like you're interested in something, you join it, and boom, everything's miraculous. Now, at first it is, because when it comes to the works of faith, and I think so, all of us who have been involved in any type of work, good work, a group, a Bible study, whatever, in the beginning, I think, personally, it's always exciting. There's people around, you get to know people a little better. Everything is new and exciting, so it interests you more. So you're feeling personally that you're getting something from this. So you react to that, and you're, oh, this is great. But again, as we do these good works and as we do these different groups, a lot of times it starts to become routine. Just like when we found our faith and that becomes routine, the good works become routine. And all of a sudden, we're not finding that personal flair that always is about us. I have a little fire on me. I didn't mean to do that, but that's the truth. That fire that started is kind of simmered down a little bit. We don't feel it all the time. It doesn't flare up every time we have a meeting. It kind of just, it's there. It's not gone. But because we don't feel it personally, a lot of times we're like, then we start to feel dragged down, or we start to feel like we're not interested. We're not interested anymore. That's the point. But that's the difference between interest and investment. So, I want to talk about that. I want to talk about, I have some scripture, but I want to talk about first, have you ever been interested in something and realized you didn't want to invest? Okay? Because I think that's true. And I think especially when you join church and groups, you can be interested in something and realize it's not for you. There have been things I've joined that I have been interested in and realized it's not for me. My gifts that God has given me really don't help the group in whole and don't help the church in whole. And I have had those things. But there's other things that I've been interested in, that I have good gifts in, and I invest in, that it's not always about me, but they do. Overall, it helps the group, it helps the goal, it helps the whole group as a whole. So my question is, in your journeys, have you ever had something where you found interest, but then realized maybe not a time for investment? Or the other part of the question, did you find something you're interested in and then you invested, and how did that affect your faith? So those are some questions I'm putting out there.
Yeah, so remember there's a little bit of a delay. So as we say the
Yes.
question, but we can give just a moment for them to think on that, because that's a really good question, right? Is you kind of sometimes the initial excitement of something new opens up so many possibilities, and then you kind of get into the middle of it and realize, well, maybe this isn't where God's wanting me to grow, or pursue. Yeah. So, one of the things for me, I guess, just to give maybe people a little bit of time to ruminate on it, or to stew on it. Initially when I was a kid, and a kid kind of, hey, there's Lid, a kid kind of doing, faith like this, like a roller coaster ride. One of the things that I kind of first stumbled onto, I guess, is is drama, is doing like little skits and stuff like that. I just I didn't realize that was something that, I mean, I'd always enjoyed doing that, just kind of goofing around and stuff, but I didn't realize that was something that I could use to help impact or draw people closer to Christ. So for me, that was kind of like something that I initially was excited in, and invested in it, and really saw a lot of fruit kind of grow out of that. Kind of growing in just how to share my faith, not just through drama, but then like doing it, just in conversations with people. Doing skits kind of helped me frame, or maybe even give me a boldness to go forward and do that kind of thing. So.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can repeat the question one more time for anybody that maybe is
Sure.
responding, and also maybe if Lid wants
So
to respond.
yeah, so we're talking about the interest in investment. So you find something you're interested in first. I mean, you have to have interest in it. That's the truth. You find something you're interested in faith, like a works, like a group, a Bible study, whatever it may be. My question is either, did you find something that you were interested in that once you realized you couldn't invest in it, that the investment, you were not going to invest in it, you either pulled away or decided not to, or something that you're interested in, and once you invested, you could see the fruit of that investment start to grow over time. Mike did say we had a comment. So who was it?
Yeah, it was Joy.
Choir for her.
Okay. Choir for her. That's a big one for people. The singing is something I can speak freely because I know he'd say it. My dad's invested in music, and that is where he finds his joy. And that is where he finds, not just for him. And sometimes he'll say, oh, I got to go to practice. I wish I could sleep or something, but he always comes out of it, I think, with a sense of wholeness. So, that's one for him. For me, it's been working with kids in one capacity or the other. I'll just put my story out there real quick. I've always been interested in working with kids since I was one, because I started teaching Sunday school at 19. So I was basically a kid while I started doing it. But I was working with the youth pastor of the time. His name is James, and I was his like sub teacher kind of thing. He was teaching me how to teach at the time. But I've always I like working with kids, but I will say this: when my own life kind of got jumbled and confused, and there was a point in my life where I was not focused on the faith, I was still interested, but I knew I couldn't invest the time. I taught Sunday school from 19 to now. I've taught it the whole time, but I pulled away from youth group for 5 or 6 years. I pulled out. I knew I could not give those kids of myself what I needed to help them. I could have been a body in that room. I could have been someone to listen. I've always been the one to yell, which is just my trait. But I could have done that. But I knew personally I was dealing with too many issues. My head was never there in that time. It just was not there. It was not there for them, and it wasn't there for the leaders I worked with. And I was like, you know what, this is, and I stepped back. I stepped way back. I could still do the Sunday school because it was a little simpler, a little more routine, and I kind of followed a lesson plan, so it was a little easier to do for me at the time. But I did pull away from something. Now I've gone back, as Hector well knows, but it took time for me to want to do that again. I had to right myself in my faith, and I'll get to that when we get to scripture later. But that was mine. Anybody else? No.
I mean, there are like a lot of things I could say for this. I think recently I was thinking about like our kids going off to college, our seniors, and I was kind of thinking about my own experience in school. And I went to a Christian college, so it was kind of easy to assume that I was just getting the faith, getting Christianity from the classes that I would attend and going to chapel and like the friendships I had with people. And that was true. But one thing I regret not investing in was a local church. Like I would go to church, but not that regularly, because to me it was like, well, I had to write this paper, I had to do this. There was always something else I needed to do to stay on top of just the college experience. And, you know, I look back on that time as like, man, I really missed out, because I had like, there were some churches around me that were just really great churches. And I wish I had, you know, prioritized that, or been better at kind of balancing my life in a way that I could make room for that, you know? So
yeah, I think of all the organic things that happen in a church, you know, when you're having to deal and interact with people. You know, that in and of itself is so huge. I mean, we're seeing that played out now with the students and you know, wanting to be physically back in schools, right? Because it's had an effect on them in terms of that stuff that you're talking about, missing out on, you know, you know, that sort of interaction. Yeah, so I think that's really, really awesome that that you highlighted that, because you know, I remember I had a friend growing up that their dad was a believer, but he didn't believe in going to a physical church. And the thought that always came to me was like, how can you be called like a Christian, right, and not love Christ's body? And that's a hard thing, right? That's a hard thing. But you're right, it does cost an investment. It costs, you know, making a priority or making decisions, and it's not an easy investment either, you know, like church people are tough. That's right, I'm talking to all of you out there. All right, you are tough. I'm tough too to deal with.
I think like, especially thinking, you know, I had gone to like one church my whole life up to that point, and you know, you just get used to church being a place where you know everybody and you're comfortable, and you know, it's like a place of, I guess, safety and peace and whatnot.
And it should be, right?
Yeah, but like having to go to a new church and make those relationships and like really, you know, I don't know what the word is, but it was just, I was just like, no, it's too much, right? It's too much of an investment to have to do that on top of like everything else in my life. But I just think back on it like, wow, those new people and that new denomination or that new experience would have opened my world up so much more. You know, and even though like college was also a great experience, you know, living on campus and doing all that stuff was, you know, it did come to feel like I was kind of caught in that bubble. And I wish I would have had like my local church as kind of an escape from that, and just a new place to go to really, you know, enrich my faith.
Yeah.
But,
I think the word you used more than once was good, though. Also, the priority. I think when we talk about investing, just like I talked about a savings account and it accrues over time. When you invest in something, even like, let's say you invest in, I'm only using financial examples because they're good metaphors. You invest in stocks. You take a risk investing in certain stocks, but if investment in that stock over time can prove to be so fruitful. An example I have of that, but you have to prioritize that. You have to, prioritize where you're going to put your funds. My example of that is actually, I just found this out. I was talking to my grandma and they had an ad on the TV for Amazon and because Amazon's huge right now because nobody goes out to shop. Everybody goes on Amazon and buys everything. And Amazon's putting out commercials now about how they've changed their procedures and, how they're investing in their people and everything. And they're huge. It's one of the biggest companies right now. And I was like, wow, whoever got stock in that in the beginning is so lucky. And she just kind of said, she was like, oh, I have stock in that.
What?
Okay. Which she does.
I literally saw the dollar signs.
Yeah, I was like, okay, but the truth is that Amazon in the beginning was not a company that a lot of people had. It was cheap.
Yeah.
It was when she invested, they almost went bankrupt, right? She invested in it when it was inexpensive. It was nothing. She put investment into it, and over time, a time that she couldn't understand.
Right.
Now, who knows? But that's the thing with our faith. We don't always see what's going to be. Sometimes we can see the disaster coming before we see the product and the fruit. And a lot of times that's a hard time to stay invested. That's when it really hits home and it's hard. But this mix of faith and works is what I want to talk about because it is a combination. It's not one or the other. And that's where I'm going to go to my first scripture. I love this scripture. I go to it a lot for myself, and it's James. And Michael and I, with our Bible study, we've done 2 studies on James. So James is something that at least I feel like we've covered a little bit so we can look at it. And I'm looking in James chapter 2, and I'm going to start on verse 14. And that's it's titled Faith and Deeds. So let me just read this for you. This is again James chapter 2, and it's going to start on verse 14, and I'm going to read all the way down to 25. And it says, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims to have faith but no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or a sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of them says, if one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if not accompanied by action, is dead. But someone will say, 'You have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds. You believe that there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. You foolish person, do you want evidence that faith without deeds is useless? Was not our father Abraham considered righteous for what he did when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see that his faith and his actions were working together, and his faith had made complete by what he did. And the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was accredited to him as righteousness, and he was called God's friend. You see that a person is considered righteous by what they do and not by faith alone. In the same way, was not even Rahab the prostitute considered righteous for what she did when she gave lodging to the spies and sent them off in a different direction? As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead. Interesting examples that scripture gives for what constitutes as good deeds, but those were hard things. One was a hard thing that the father had to do, which he did not want to do. Been promised this son, been promised, and then finally has him, and God's like, okay, now give him to me. And that's something that I'm sure was trying in him. to invest in his faith, he had to give up the very thing he loved the most. Now, because he's faithful and does what God asks of him, Isaac is not actually sacrificed, and they sacrifice the lamb and the horns with the, I'm getting it wrong, I'm sorry, but there was something there for the sacrifice. Now, Rahab, I'm not as familiar with, but it's an interesting point that they're saying that her good deeds of detour are the thing that showed her faith.
Mhm.
You know, someone of a position, we really don't look at prostitute and say, yep, there we go, that's the one we want to, you know, go after. But it's showing you different types of people, and it's showing you that we all are able to do within our own realm, in what God has given us as our gifts, to invest in those and put those out as good works to bring the faith together and to make it a whole. And I think it's hard for some people, and I also think that it's hard to see the hard and see the investment when you don't see the whole thing. We are a people of instantaneous nature. We want what we want exactly when we started. We don't want to have to wait for it.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that. But I do think that the faith is needed. So my question is, when we look at the scripture, you know, and everything, like, how do we get others to see this? I think the scripture kind of explains that, but how do we get others to stay invested? You know, we need others to stay invested so they understand what's at stake for not being invested. Being interested is something that we're all good at. If you have a church with more than 10 people in it, you can get people interested in something.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, but to get them invested is a different thing. To get them invested not only in their own personal faith, but in the faith around them. And it doesn't have to always be a big, complicated thing. I'm not saying you have to be the head of the board to do that, okay? There are people who are constant greeters in our church. I'm just going to name some things off. That's all they do. They greet. That's a ministry. They're saying hello to everyone who enters the door. That's a big deal. And not everybody has the ability to do that well. Some people don't want to do that ever. So, you know, the factor that they're interested and invested in that is a big deal. There are people who, you know, they're ushers and you see them that way, and maybe that's one job. There's men who, mostly men, there are some women, who are trustees, who they love to do the work of the grounds and keep it looking a certain way. You come to our church, it looks really nice outside. Okay. And even during this pandemic, it has stayed nice looking outside. It's a beautiful grounds. These people still invested their time, even in a season when really I didn't know if they'd show up or not. You know, that's a big deal. In fact, I came to work and my bushes were all overgrown in front of the office, and then yesterday they were lopped off, and I'm like, someone's been here. You know, it's a big deal. You know, I think that when we say investment, it doesn't have to be in everything. Because when we get interested in everything and try to invest in everything, that's when we get burnout. And I think we've all experienced some form of burnout or another, where you're doing too much. You can't be invested in everything. You'll spread yourself too thin. Just like we talk about financial, if you spread your money out everywhere, you might get something eventually, but you're not going to see the return on that. You need to make the investment in something, maybe one thing, maybe two. And that's where you put your time and effort, you know? So.
Well, you know, and I think too, you know, it is important to consider what you really are investing in. You know, are you investing in the kingdom, or in just, you know, kind of stuff here, or even, you know, sometimes good works can work the other way, where we invest in them as a way of like, well, now God will like me, or God will be like, high five, yeah, way to go, you know. And so I think, you know, you kind of ask the question about like what helps people get invested, and I think, you know, this might be counterintuitive, but the early church would kind of not promise people a good life for being a Christian, but the promise was, look, you're gonna join Jesus in suffering, and it's not gonna be, you know, all roses and rainbows, right? It's gonna be a difficult life of sacrifice, but my goodness, is it worth it? You know, is it worth it for the prize that is Christ? who set that example of giving himself, of sacrificing,
Yes.
And so we don't shy away from like difficult things, of kind of saying that, yeah, being a Christian is gonna be tough, is gonna get those priorities, sorted out. So
Mike, you said we had comments.
Yep.
well, Liz got something too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I would, as you were just saying, whenever I think of investment, and from my own experience, I think people shy away from that because they realize that when you invest in something, at some point it's gonna be hard, and it's not gonna, like you were saying before, it's like the honeymoon phase is over when you invest in something. Like, you might not get the praise that you want, you might not get that new, like, ooey gooey feeling in your heart while you're doing it. There's just so many things that are difficult, that you only feel that difficulty when you actually invest in it. But like when you were talking about, just Jesus and his sacrifice, it's like, how can you really know the love of Jesus unless you experience that, unless you feel that like heartache that comes from investing?
Right.
Otherwise, you don't appreciate what Jesus did for us. And otherwise, like, your faith doesn't have that same gravity. So, I don't know, like, it's hard to remember that, because I think, like you're saying, as Christians, we tend to just assume that, well, I invest in the church, I invest in the kingdom, it's just going to make me feel so great all the time, and people are going to be praising me, and God's going to be just showering down that ooey gooey feeling into my heart, and it's just not that way. And it's hard to remember that it's okay that it's not that way. It's still worth investing in, and it still has a reward in that, you know.
I think it's also the mixture of what James talks about is good works, but also your own faith. You have to invest in your faith, and he doesn't say it here, but investing in the word, he does talk, investing in the scripture, and I'm going to get to that later. But that has to be just as much invested as the groups that you decide to become a part of, and that gets lost. I've lost that at times, where I'm all invested in what I'm doing, but I'm not investing some personal into, like, internal as much as external, because the external sometimes, and especially for me personally, external is easier. External I can do all day long. It just it comes naturally. It's in a personality thing. But internal, that is a hard thing sometimes. It is hard to pick up this book and is it easy to, and I'm just going to put myself out there, sacrifice myself on the table here. Was it easy to go into scripture and look for this and do this? Yes, because that was me putting something out for people. Did I get something out of it? Yes, I do. But that internal, that just taking it in so that God is
Just
reaching
for yourself,
to me, and
not share for anybody. You mean,
that's a hard, that's part of it. I think a lot of times get caught up in the works, and then that's why I'm talking about, it's both. It's not one, it's both. He talks about you find your faith by the good works, but your faith, your own faith, personal faith, does need to be invested in, and it needs to be grown by scripture and prayer and those things. So I don't want to not hear other people. Did you say there were other comments?
Yeah, there are a few. Yeah.
Maureen
and Jamie and Lisa.
Okay.
Bible study was one of my best decisions. I've learned so much and understand the Bible on so many different levels.
And that's a good point.
Jamie Cook, sorry, I never really invested sharing many Bible stories with my kids, nephews, and grandkids, especially the birth of Jesus on Christmas. As many times I've reaped the rewards of being involved with Sunday school, and my children have learned Bible stories through the years, hoping the fruit of faith remains in all those hearts.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think Lisa also mentioned that she said that she was asked to be a volunteer over 30 years ago to work at a vacation Bible school, And at first, I thought I didn't have the time with taking care of my own 2 kids, but this led me to meet another Methodist minister who hired me to teach preschool at their new school. And they were blessed to be able to work and bring her daughter to this preschool as well. Sometimes we need to do the things that we don't want to do and feel incapable or capable of, and then we end up receiving blessings. Yeah, how true is that? That's really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are all good things. I think those are all true, and sometimes that's that awkward feeling of, and that's the other thing I'll say, the you don't know if you have the time. Sometimes you're interested but not interested enough to want to actually do it. That's that hard part, that okay, I'm going to do this, but once you're doing it, I think that's when the investment needs to take place. Once you've committed, then commit. It's important. It's because it's not just you, it's others, and that commitment, it helps it to grow, it helps it to thrive, like I said, not always just for yourself but for the others around you. There's something to be said about that. Bible studies were mentioned. I've been part of Bible studies that, just being there together sometimes, it's it's just that alone something for the faith. I had a scripture, another scripture that I thought was part of this, and I think it speaks to this time. It's from 2 Timothy, and it's from chapter 4. It's going to start on verse 1, and I'm going to read down to verse 8. Yes. So chapter 4, 1 through 8. And this is Paul's final charge to Timothy. This is Paul speaking to Timothy. But I think it can apply to us for the most part. It's Paul's story, but this really can apply to us. So let me read this for you. This is 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. And it says, "In the presence of God and Jesus Christ, who will judge the living and the dead, and in view of his appearing and his kingdom, I give you this charge. Preach the word. Be prepared in season and out of season. Correct, rebuke, and encourage with great patience and careful instruction. For the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine. Instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. They will turn their ears away from the truth and turn aside to myths. But you keep your head in all situations, endure hardship, do the work of an evangelist, discharge all duties of your ministry. For I am already being poured out like a drink offering, and the time for my departure is near. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing." I love this scripture because it talks about a lot of what we've been talking about, and I didn't know that it would talk about a lot of what we're talking about, but it talks about the hardships, and it talks about what you have to do, and it also says with great patience and careful instruction. That's a big part of investment, is in this investment specifically. And I like that he points to all these things, and then he points to people are going to go another way. They're not going to want to follow this, and they're going to find people who are going to give them advice and things that are what they want to hear, not what they need to hear, and they're going to walk away. And I think we've seen that, and that's where I think the interest and the investment switch off. When they're interested and they want to listen,
Yep.
Easy peasy. Oh, cool, that's great, awesome. But all of a sudden, when the ears don't hear what they want to hear anymore, and they don't like what's being said, then
that sort of makes me think of like the times where you're in a service and you're like, oh, that message was for you, right? Not for me, but for you,
Right.
And it's like we do that all the time. I mean, we don't do that all the time. do it.
Yeah.
Humanity, I should say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think that, that he keeps talking about, to go out there and do the works of the evangelist. And there's all different parts of evangelism. It's not all just this speaking and, doing that. So I think that that's something to be said. And I think everybody can play a part. I don't think everybody, again, has to be the forefront runner of the thing. There's a lot of behind the scenes. And I will tell you, from a person who worked backstage, those behind the scenes people are invaluable.
Yeah.
Those people you never see, you never really know about, but they're the ones working all the gears to make it work. So the thing in the front that you're watching is the thing that happens. That's immeasurable. And they're doing good works that may never be seen or understood by others. But they're doing it. When they're doing it, especially for the Lord, you see the fruit of that within the whole project.
There's a lot of parts of our body that we can't see, but if it's not working properly, ooh, you know about it. You feel it, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I wanted to kind of put that out there. It's been something on my heart.
Yeah.
And, I think that even in this season, I think I saw it in the season mostly because to be invested in this part of life, we're all kind of like, I'm sitting here in my living room talking to you, not like in the church in front of the thing with the, like I said, I have my coffee, but not my sweet treats from midweek. And, it's not the same situation. It's definitely not as easy. I mean, it's kind of cool. I can sit here in my PJs, but it's still not the same situation. It's still not what I was interested in to begin with. And the investment of it, though, and the investment of our group, and I'm just going to go with the midweek group because that's what we're on, has just been amazing because people are putting it out there for us, and people are tuning in, and you're tuning in on the Facebook, and that's amazing. And the funny thing is the people who are tuning in, I've seen them once or twice at midweek, but I'm so glad you tuned in tonight because that was just amazing, and we get to hear from you, and I don't know if I would have heard from you otherwise. So I look at that investment, and there's a fruit from that already, a fruit from this time of where we are now in what we're dealing with. I mean, I said it in the beginning in my prayer and I meant it. God has given us all these mediums to work with. I mean, now we have to choose to work with God and not work with something else in these mediums, because these mediums can go the other way. But just like anything else, they can. But the fact we have this and Facebook and YouTube and all of these different things that we can reach others, it's just showing how far we can take that hand of God and help to show him to others. So I think there's a lot of fruit in this time, even though it's a hard time of our lives to be going through. So
I like how you kind of pointed out that sometimes we have to invest ourselves before like that interest develops. Like you were saying, you really weren't interested in doing things this way, but once you do it, that's kind of like God's blessing in a lot of circumstances, that you're saying, God, I don't want to do this, but I'm gonna try something new, and I'm gonna trust that you're gonna bring like joy into this experience for me. And I don't know, like that's challenging because like you said, like we're not people that like to go outside of what we're used to doing and trust in God in that way. But I just think that's such a rewarding experience when we do find that interest, or we do, like you're saying, see the fruit from something that we weren't, expecting any fruit to come from or whatever, but yeah.
Yeah, and the comments that a few people made, really, bring that to light, where they,
Totally.
So, well, I want to thank everybody, and if you tune in later and you watch it later, thank you for tuning in at any point. I mean, we're glad to bring it to you. It is, even when we don't see the exact fruits of it, I will say it's very rewarding to be able to be part of the church this way. There's moments where it's trying, and there's moments where I'm tired, and there's those moments, I won't lie. But the reward is there. And the feeling of connecting with God, with connecting with others is insurmountable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
So I think that's good. I think that's about what we had. Just because you're on that end, would one of you mind praying? I'll leave it up to you. I'm calling you.
Sure, I'll pray.
Thank you.
Dear God, I just thank you for I thank you for Mel's willingness to bring this important topic to us tonight, and I thank you for everyone who's participated in this discussion, and just the various stories that you have, each of us, you've created for each of us to share with one another. And I thank you for all you've been doing in this time and just all you're going to do. And I pray that we would have the strength to invest in the things that you have called us to invest in, that you'd make those things clear to us, and that you'd give us the strength and the joy of investing in those things. And I ask that you'd be with each of us tonight, and that you would just fill us with your love. And I thank you for this time. And I pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Well, thank you very much. Thank you to both of you, Hector and Lydia, for participating. Thanks to Mike. He was over here kind of just speaking at, and I love that. He's very good at he is a behind the scenes guy. I'll say I married one of those. So very behind the scenes and very good at it. So just thank you very much for coming, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.
All right.
Yeah.